Every time you let someone interrupt you, talk down to you, or push past your boundaries, you're silently teaching them how to treat you. The question is, are you teaching them that your time, your words, and your presence matter, or are you teaching them that they don't? All right, let's talk about something that every single one of us has had to deal with at some point. You're in a conversation, maybe at work, maybe at a family gathering, maybe just hanging out with people you know, and someone decides to test you. They cut you off mid-sentence like what you're saying doesn't matter. They throw a little jab at you and wrap it up in a "just kidding," or they act like your time, your opinions, or your feelings are optional. It happens more often than we'd like to admit, and most of the time we're taught to smile, keep the peace, and let it slide. But here's the problem with that: every time you let it slide, you send a silent message that says, "I'm okay with this. You can do it again." And if you've ever wondered why certain people keep pushing your boundaries, that's the reason. They've learned you won't push back. This isn't about being confrontational or starting drama. This is about protecting your self-respect without losing your cool. Today I want to walk you through a set of tools that are simple, practical, and powerful enough to change the way people treat you. They're not the typical advice you hear like, "just ignore it," or "just be nice." These are real ways to set the tone, set the boundary, and make it clear you're not the person to play with. Some of them might feel a little uncomfortable at first. That's part of the point. Growth usually is. By the end of this, you'll know how to show people exactly where the line is drawn without saying a word too much. Let's start with one of my personal favorites, the silent look. It's deceptively simple, and you might be tempted to underestimate it. But trust me, it works like magic. Here's how it goes. Someone says something disrespectful or cuts you off, and instead of arguing, explaining, or firing back, you just stop, look directly at them, calm, steady, no blinking, no smile, no frown, nothing, just your presence. You'd be amazed how quickly that silence can flip the energy in the room. Why does this work? People who are disrespectful are almost always chasing a reaction. They want you flustered. They want you to try to prove yourself. They want to feel like they got under your skin. When you don't give them that reaction, when you just look at them and let the silence stretch, it throws them completely off balance. Suddenly, they're the ones feeling exposed. It's like you're holding up a mirror and making them sit in the reflection of their own behavior. I remember being in a meeting once where someone kept interrupting me every time I opened my mouth. He was one of those loud, overconfident types who thought the whole room was there to hear his monologue. At first I tried to be polite, tried to wait for my turn, but he just kept cutting in. Finally I leaned back, crossed my arms, and just stared at him. Not angrily, not even with attitude, just a calm, steady gaze. 5 seconds of silence. It doesn't sound long, but in that kind of moment it feels like an eternity. The room went quiet. He stumbled over his words, lost his flow, and suddenly couldn't look me in the eye. After that, he didn't interrupt me again. That moment did more to shift the power dynamic than anything I could have said. Now here's the deeper layer of this. The silent look isn't about being aggressive, it's about control. You're reminding yourself and the other person that you don't owe anyone an emotional reaction. You don't have to get dragged into their negativity. You can stand still, unbothered, and make your presence speak for itself. It's also about self-worth. Too often, when someone disrespects us, we think the best way to handle it is to explain ourselves, justify, or laugh it off so we don't make it a big deal. But all that does is drain you. The silent look is a way of saying, I don't need to explain myself. I'm not playing this game. I know my worth. That ties directly into the next tool, silence itself. People underestimate how powerful it is to simply say nothing. I know it feels wrong at first. When someone throws a dig at you, it feels natural to clap back, defend yourself, or at least explain why they're wrong. But silence is often the sharpest response you can give. Because disrespect is like fire, it needs oxygen. When you don't feed it, it dies on its own. I'll give you an example. There was this guy I knew who loved making jokes at other people's expense. You know the type, right? Always with the little digs, wrapped up in sarcasm, so if you call them out they can just say, "Relax, I'm only joking." One day he made a remark about my work. Nothing clever, just unnecessary and mean-spirited. Normally, I would have explained myself or tried to brush it off. But this time, I didn't say a word. I just raised an eyebrow and sat in silence. You know what happened. He got uncomfortable. He shifted in his chair, muttered something, and moved on. And after that, the digs stopped. It wasn't fun for him anymore, because the silence took away the reaction he was looking for. Silence is a choice. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're letting them get away with it. It means you're choosing not to waste your energy on someone who doesn't deserve it. And when you realize that you don't owe anyone a reaction, you free yourself from constantly defending or proving yourself. You get to keep your peace. But there's another layer to this conversation, and it's one I think a lot of people need to hear. You don't have to explain your choices. This is a trap so many of us fall into. You make a decision to change jobs, to skip an event, to move, to start something new, and suddenly everyone wants to know why. Why'd you do that? Why didn't you go? Why would you give that up? And because we don't want to seem rude or defensive, we start giving explanations. We justify, we rationalize, we pour out our reasoning as if our life needs to be approved by committee. But here's the truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to live your life. Your choices are yours. And if someone's questioning you, 9 times out of 10, they're not looking to understand. They're looking to judge. They want to poke holes, to make you doubt yourself, or to feel better about their own choices by making yours seem questionable. I used to be the king of over-explaining. If I made a big decision, I'd basically give people a full slideshow on why I was doing it. I thought if I could just explain it well enough, they'd nod and give me their blessing. But what really happened is the more I explained, the more people questioned me. They'd pick apart my reasoning, offer their concerns, and leave me feeling even less confident. It was exhausting. Then one day I just stopped. Someone asked me why I left a stable job for something less predictable. I looked at them and said, because I wanted to. That's it. No justification, no breakdown of my plan, just a simple statement. The silence afterward was golden. They didn't know what to say. And do you know what? That was the last time they asked. Not explaining yourself is liberating. It's you reclaiming your autonomy and reminding yourself that your life is not a public debate. The only person who needs to approve your choices is you. Every time you resist the urge to justify, you get stronger in your own decisions. You stop living for other people's comfort zones and start living for yourself. And here's the interesting part. People actually respect you more when you stop explaining everything. Think about it. When you see someone who's truly confident, do they run around giving long speeches about why they do what they do? No, they just live their life. And that quiet confidence is magnetic. So if you're someone who's constantly over-explaining, I want you to practice keeping it short. If someone asks you why you made a decision, answer briefly, 1 sentence. And if they push, smile, change the subject, and move on. You'll feel lighter, freer, and more in control of your own life. Another tool that often gets overlooked is the simple act of saying no. It sounds basic, but most people struggle with it more than they'd ever admit. We're conditioned from childhood to be agreeable, to avoid making waves, to say yes so people will like us. And while that might keep things smooth on the surface, underneath it builds frustration, resentment, and exhaustion. Saying yes to everyone else is often just another way of saying no to yourself. The power of no isn't in the word itself, but in the way you deliver it. You don't need to shout. You don't need to be harsh. In fact, the calmest no is often the strongest. Someone asks you to do something you don't want to do. You take a breath and simply say, "No, I can't do that." Then stop. Don't explain. Don't pile on excuses. Don't soften it with a long apology. Just let it sit there. The people who value you will understand, and the people who don't, they were going to push anyway, no matter what you said. I'll tell you from experience, the first few times you try this, it feels almost unbearable. Your brain starts screaming, "Say something else! Add a reason! Make them understand!" But if you resist that urge and let the silence do its work, you'll realize something powerful. Most people accept a simple no faster than a long, drawn-out justification. In fact, the more you explain, the more room you give them to argue. Keep it short, keep it calm, and watch how quickly the conversation moves on. I used to have a coworker who always tried to get me to cover his shifts. Every time, I'd scramble for reasons, explain my schedule, go out of my way to make it sound like I wasn't just saying no to him personally. And every time, he'd push back. He'd argue with my reasons, try to guilt me, wear me down. One day, I finally tried something different. He asked if I could cover for him. I looked at him and said, "No, I can't." That's it, no reasons, no apologies. Just a clear no. He blinked, paused, and said, "Okay." And that was it. No argument. That's when I realized I'd been giving him the power all along by over-explaining. Now, does this mean you should never help people? Of course not. But the difference is that when you do say yes, it should come from a place of choice, not obligation. A clean no protects your energy, so that when you do say yes, it actually means something. This brings me to another important point: protecting your time. Time is the one resource you can't get back, and yet people treat it like it's unlimited. They'll waste it, drain it, take it for granted if you let them. Protecting your time isn't selfish, it's necessary. If you don't put a value on your time, no one else will. Think about how often you've said yes to things you didn't want to do, sat through conversations that bored or irritated you, or gave away hours to people who didn't appreciate it. Every time you do that, you're teaching people that your time is cheap, and once someone decides your time doesn't matter, they'll treat it like it's disposable. Here's what I started doing. I set clear limits. If I had an hour to meet, I made it clear at the beginning, "I've got an hour, then I have to head out." If I didn't want to take a call, I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. If I wasn't interested in attending something, I declined. Not rudely, just directly. And what happened? At first, people were surprised. Some even got annoyed. But over time, they adjusted. And now the people in my life respect my time more, because I made it clear it has value. One of the hardest but most freeing lessons is realizing you don't owe everyone access to you. Not everyone gets unlimited time, unlimited energy, unlimited pieces of you. The people who truly matter will understand and respect your boundaries. The ones who don't, they'll either adjust or fall away. And honestly, if someone only sticks around because they can take advantage of your time, you're better off without them. Let's talk about body language, because this one often says more than your words ever could. When someone disrespects you, your body language can either reinforce their behavior or shut it down instantly. If you shrink, fidget, look away, or laugh nervously, you're sending a signal that says, "I'm not comfortable, and you can keep pushing." But if you hold your ground, stand tall, shoulders back, eye contact steady, you're sending the opposite message. I'm not moving. I'm not playing along. Think about the people you've met who carry themselves with quiet confidence. They don't have to shout to command respect. It's in the way they walk into a room, the way they look at you when you speak, the way they stay calm under pressure. That presence is built through practice. Next time someone tries to test you, pay attention to your body. Instead of shrinking, expand. Instead of fidgeting, slow down your movements. Instead of rushing to fill silence, pause and breathe. That shift alone can change the entire dynamic. Another thing I've noticed is that the people who try hardest to disrespect you are often the ones who respect strength the most. They might not like it in the moment, but when you stand firm, they remember. And more importantly, you remember. Every time you hold your ground, you build trust with yourself. You prove to yourself that you can handle it, that you don't need to give away your power to keep the peace. Now, there's one more piece to all this, and it might be the most important. It's about choosing your battles. Not every slight, not every rude comment, not every interruption deserves your energy. Sometimes the most powerful move is to simply walk away. Walking away doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've decided the situation isn't worth your time, your stress, or your peace of mind. I used to think I had to stand up to every single thing, that letting even one disrespectful comment slide meant I was weak. But the truth is, strength is in discernment. Knowing when to push back and when to let go is what keeps you balanced. Some people are simply not worth the energy it would take to correct them. And when you walk away, you're not only protecting your peace, you're showing them that their behavior is beneath your attention. Here's the bigger picture. All of these tools, silence, the silent look, saying no, not explaining yourself, protecting your time, standing tall, walking away, they all come down to one thing: teaching people how to treat you. Every interaction is a lesson. You're either teaching people that you value yourself or that you don't. And people will treat you according to the lessons you give them. I know this isn't easy. I know it takes practice, and sometimes you'll slip. You'll catch yourself over-explaining, saying yes when you didn't want to, giving someone more of your time than they deserved. But every time you notice, every time you choose differently, you're building a stronger foundation for yourself. So here's what I want you to take away. Stop waiting for people to respect you. Show them how. Not by shouting, not by over-explaining, not by begging for it. By holding your ground, by setting your limits, by letting your silence speak, and by protecting your peace like it's sacred. Because it is. At the end of the day, you don't get to control how other people behave. You don't get to control whether they're rude, dismissive, or disrespectful. But you do get to control what you allow. And when you start setting those boundaries with calm, consistent actions, something amazing happens. The people who matter rise to meet you, and the ones who don't fade away. And what's left is a life filled with people who see your worth, because you never stopped showing it to yourself first. That's the real secret. Respect starts with you.